Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 198th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, Take the Leap with Cat Ludwig. Now, I am so excited to bring in a special guest to the podcast, my friend and Blogging Accelerator Program student, Cat Ludwig. Cat is a registered dietitian, and she is an entrepreneur who has a really cool business called Dysphagia Duo. And I'll let her fill in all the gaps because she's going to share a lot about her story. She's got a message that she wants to share with you guys. And Kat is amazing. She is inspirational. She is motivational. She is all the things. And I am so grateful to have you on the podcast. So, Kat, would you like to say some words, introduce yourself to our listeners?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. I am so excited to be here. I've been a dietitian for just over 5 years. I guess it's almost 6 years now. Where is the time going? And I was a chef prior to that. So food is my absolute favorite thing.
Yes. So let's kind of go down your journey. Maybe introduce people a little bit about kind of where you got started in entrepreneurship and kind of where you are now. Kind of share the whole path of journey of what you've been going on over these last several years that I've known you, and maybe even before.
Yeah. So I've always kind of dabbled in selling things. I did Avon for a hot minute. I don't know, 15 years ago. I sold jewelry once upon a time. I've kind of always dabbled in entrepreneurship, trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. I wanted to work in healthcare, but didn't know exactly what, because I didn't want to be a doctor. And we think that nurses and doctors are the only thing. So I went to culinary school, and the director was a dietitian, and that inspired me. So fast forward 10 years, and I went back to school to become a dietitian. So after starting working in long-term care, I hated the pureed food that we were making for people. Not appetizing, didn't look good, sometimes didn't smell good. You know, it sat on the hot line and got hard, and I was wondering how people are going to eat it. Luckily, I worked with a great speech therapist and just had this desire to bring awareness to this thing called dysphagia. Just didn't do it. Found you by accident on your podcast and went, I still need to do that dysphagia thing. I can do it as a blog. So I sort of joined your world, and then everything changed real fast after I found your podcast. Within about 6 months, I gave my notice. I found all these other coaches. I realized there was more to entrepreneurship than just selling products. We could provide education and support to people who really, really need it. And so I am still trying to figure out what I'm doing, of course, but I'm really excited because I get to help people every day. And I get to help people that are not getting what they need from traditional healthcare, because traditional healthcare doesn't know a whole lot about food, sadly.
Yeah. And I love that fast forward version of your story about how you had this desire to help people. You had something in your heart of like, oh my gosh, this really sucks for people. This food, we could do better. I've got people who I know could help. But sometimes having an idea in your head isn't enough. We need to have the community, the support, the systems to actually take the leap. So you kind of touched on leaving your job pretty quickly, but maybe kind of walk people through what that looked like. Because I know a lot of people listening, yes, they want to start a side hustle, but also and they would love to become a full hustler like you now are, where they are a full-time entrepreneur. So kind of walk people through what it looked like as you made the decision to leave your job and all of that.
Yeah. So I was very, very unhappy. I realized that I wasn't going to get the support I needed working at the corporate job that I was working at. And I was not just a dietitian, but I was an administrator. And I had the privilege of helping onboard new teammates, including other administrators. and found out that I was making much less money. And when I asked about it, I was told, oh, it's because dietitians get paid on a different scale. And I went, wait a second, we're valuable. And she said, yeah, but, and I was like, okay, we're not, we're not as valuable to this company because I can't work the floor as a nurse, which it really hurt. And I got really angry.
Mhm.
And one of the mentors that I had at the time had said, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you very angry. And so learning hard lessons was important. And I can feel myself right now, just starting to get a little bit
Mhm.
heated thinking about it. And back then I just got angry and I didn't know what to do. Well, listening to that mentor, listening to your podcast, I had joined your blogging accelerator program right around the same time. And I joined Javi and Marissa Carlin's one of their programs right around the same time. And then I discovered Greg Todd and joined one of his challenges about this time 2 years ago. And so I started to immerse myself in learning about entrepreneurship and learning about how to help other people outside of traditional healthcare. And I realized that I could do it, but I didn't know how, and I was scared.
Mm.
And then I realized after listening to all of these people, including you, that have talked about, is that fear was not a reason to hold myself back. I needed to be scared, but I needed to do it anyway.
Mm.
And I heard you say a number of times, do it now, just do it now. And I had written my notice, had written my letter of resignation, and I saved it. And I got COVID in May 2 years ago, and I came back, and my boss looked at me and she said, you're not happy. And I said, you're right, I'm not. Here's my notice. And I slid it across the table to her. And I felt free that day. And I was scared, but I knew I was going to have opportunities that were not going to happen if I stayed in my corporate job. And I'd been slowly working on my blog, and I don't know where I found time to do it back then, because I was working like 60 hours a week. And I started to try to learn real quick what I was going to do. Talked to my speech therapist friend from all those years before and told her, I said, I have this idea. There are people out there that are not being served. We have an opportunity to serve them because no one else is.
Yeah.
And I had been asking around some family members, some friends, and they all went, don't help people with dysphagia. You need to do something like diabetes. And I was like, but that's not me.
Mm.
And that there's a lot of people doing that. And not that I can't do that, but there's no one serving this group of people with dysphagia. And when I talk about this group, I'm not talking about your traditional Parkinson's, post-stroke, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy. I'm talking young people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that have no cause. They don't know how to cook food. They don't know how to prepare food. They don't know how to address reflux. Their doctors are throwing PPIs at them. They all have anxiety, whether they had it before or got it post
Mhm.
swallowing disorder. And Stephanie, my business partner, said, I'm in, let's do it. I don't know what we're doing, but let's do it. And so over the last year and a half, we've been figuring out what people need,
Mhm.
figuring out what they want. And I have taken a lot of really scary steps in the last year and a half. And while it terrifies me, I'm also not in the pain I was in
Mm.
at that previous job. And
Yeah.
so I don't want other people to not move forward because they're scared. I want them to also not get in as much pain as I was in before they move forward. I want them to do it before they're in that much pain because I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, yeah, and I love everything that you're sharing, Kat, and I love your story. I love how you took this leap. You took the leap of leaving your job. You took the leap of investing in high-level business coaching programs. You took the leap of doing something scared even though you didn't know how because you recognized where I'm at in this job, I'm not happy. I'm in pain and I shouldn't stay here. But I'm just going to say that most people stay in pain. We stay in pain because it's comfortable. It's what we've always known. This is what we think life is supposed to look like. This is what a job is, right? You're not supposed to love your job. It's supposed to pay the bills. And we have this misconception of what it's supposed to look like until we discover another way. And what
Right.
happened is by discovering this podcast, discovering all these people, I love that you work with Greg, with Javi, Marissa, that you discovered there is another way and I want to do it. And so much of what you shared, I hope that people are like, what I actually hope is I hope that there are people listening right now and they have that moment you had. Because I know you shared a few specific examples of listening to the podcast. They're like, oh my gosh, I hope that for people listening now that they have that moment of like, wow, Cat is like dropping something here that I needed to hear. Fear
Right.
isn't the reason to hold myself back. I need to do it now. I need to do it now. I need to take the leap because and I'm just going to say, and I think we both could agree, what's on the other side is so much more amazing than sometimes what our brain tells us it might be. We get all scared of like, "Ah, the unknown." So I love everything that you're sharing about taking that leap and doing it
Right.
scared.
It's rewarding. And I've also come to discover that if I don't have that feeling in the pit of my stomach that I used to associate with fear, then it's not worth it. So
Hmm.
if I get that feeling, I'm like, ooh, I need to do this because I'm scared. That means it's going to be worth it. And you have to make that decision because one of the things I posted for my audience last week was if you don't make the decision, it will be made for you.
Hmm.
And it might as well be your choice.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I want to pick up on something else you actually said because you'd mentioned how someone said to you, like, oh, you're going to be doing business. Why are you doing dysphagia? Why don't you do diabetes? And I think we hear this a lot when it comes to doing something. We would have people who tell us, oh, you
Mhm.
should do this, you should do that. But I love that you had it within you to understand that's not me. And I don't want to do that because some people will go down the wrong path because they listen to the voices of people maybe they shouldn't be listening to. I always say, unless you find someone who's doing what you want to do and they are having success, don't take your advice from them. Everyone's got opinions, and people might say, like, oh, this is where the money's at. This is how you should do it. But I think, had you decided to go into diabetes, you wouldn't have liked it. And you love what you do. I love hearing you talk about what you do, what you and Stephanie do with Dysphagia Duo, and how you're able to help people in real meaningful ways. And like you said, this isn't just older adults. This is a big deal, and there isn't the support out there until now, and you guys are building
Right.
it up. So
Yeah.
I love that you're currently building a business that you love. And you're even at this place where you're like, I don't even know where it's going. I'm listening to my audience, listening to what they want. You're getting guidance from coaches. You are showing up and doing the work, and you are intentional to lean into fear instead of away from it.
Yep. I'm learning to use tools that I didn't know I had before.
Yeah.
I'm learning about tools like money. One of the things that really helped change my perspective was you saying, I love talking about money on all your different podcast episodes because I discovered that money is a tool.
Yeah.
It's replaceable. We can make more of it. We just have to know how. And that's where coaching came in for me.
Yeah, yeah. And this episode is coming a week after one that I just dropped called Business Coaching Changed My Life. And in it, I share all of the ways that business coaching did change my life. And I would even say that's probably goes the same for you, Kat, that I really think that because you got into this world, it did change your life for the better in so many ways.
Yep. I have had a number of bad things happen since I joined this world. And if I had not been in the communities and in the rooms that I am in, it would have broken me.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone else to have to go through that. But if you are going through that, you are facing the most difficult thing you've ever been through in your life. Having this supportive community, whatever that looks like for you, makes all the difference, both mentally, physically, emotionally, all the above. Like I could not be sitting here with you today, Katie, if I had not joined the program and been able to get through the mindset shifts that I've had to make.
all mindset.
Mhm.
So, what would you tell someone who's listening and they are wanting to take the leap, whether or not that is starting their side hustle, starting their business, leaving their job, doing something big that they've been thinking about for a long time? Gosh, I want to do it, but they haven't done it yet. They're on the edge, but they haven't leaped yet. What would you want to tell them?
First, write down what it is that you want and then figure out how to multiply that by 10, because it's always bigger than what we allow ourselves to see at first. And you are the only one holding you back. So the first step is awareness. You have to know what you want in order to place the path in front of you to get there, right?
Mhm.
And then second, what's the first step you have to do? Is it talking to someone? Is it getting support? Is it finding the money? Is it, and really the money is, if you're trying to find the money, that's a whole nother conversation, because it's out there and there are ways to do it with creativity and not money. But you just have to put one foot in front of the other. You have to start small, and then those steps continue to grow. You don't just, things just don't happen in a vacuum, right? We have to put effort into it. So write it down first and then figure
Yeah.
out what you have to do today to make it happen.
Yeah. And that's so simple, right? Breaking it down to what do you want? Then dream bigger, 10x it, because so many of us dream way small, myself included, although I've changed. I think you too. But then figure out that first next step. I think sometimes we think I have to know all the answers, I have to know all the things, I have to know all the path. And then sometimes we just get overwhelmed thinking about it because the journey, it doesn't end. It is this ongoing journey of business, of life, of all the things. And it can get overwhelming if you think of all the things.
Yeah.
But I love that. Just
Yeah.
one step, then the next step,
Yep.
then the next step.
And if I hadn't been listening to you say, you need to dream big, dream big, dream big, I don't think I would have been able to imagine. And I'm not even close yet. Like, I can't wait to see where I'm going to be in a year,
Yeah.
because I'm dreaming so big. I know things are possible. I'm watching all of these other people in this business coaching world with me achieve these massive goals. And I want to set goals so big that there's no way I can even possibly attain them. I,
Yes.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I don't even care that I don't know how I'm going to do it at this point, because my faith is different than it used to be, because I have support from like-minded people.
Yes. I love that. And isn't it so often that we hear people say, create really small goals, small dreams. So that way, if you don't make it, you won't feel bad. But then all of a sudden we discover this new world, like, I'm going to dream so big. I hope I don't make it because that means I believe in myself enough. I dream enough. And I will say it's not a matter of like, I don't want to discourage anyone. It doesn't mean we're not going to make it. It just means that we might not make it in the timeline we've given ourselves. It just might mean we have to pivot, twist, and turn. It might take a little longer. It might be, we might actually achieve these crazy dreams. But I love that you are dreaming big. It's like in so many ways, you're looking at the world through a different lens than maybe you had before. And I know you're happy and love what you're doing.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, like, you can't know where you're going. Our path is laid out. Like, I'm a believer. God has laid out my path, and I have to show up in order to step foot on that.
Yeah.
It's, but if I don't show up, I'm not going to get there anyway. So
Yes.
we're going to have to pivot. Nothing is going to happen the way we want, because it just doesn't work out that way. But if I show up, the opportunities are going to present themselves. And I read a book a long time ago, The Richest Man in Babylon, I think is what it's called. It's a little book. And one of the chapters is on luck. And it talks about how you can make luck, but you have to show up. It's the story about buying the lottery ticket. Well, you can't win the lottery if you don't buy the lottery ticket, right? So you have to show up in order to invite luck into your life. So you just have to do it. You have to leap, because if you don't leap, good things can't happen in that area. And bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
That's a part of life. We're all surrounded by bad things, but we have the opportunity to make decisions to move us forward no matter what. And as long as we keep moving forward, we're going to have momentum to pivot when we need to.
Yes. Yes. I am so glad you came on the podcast, Kat. So, I know we could talk forever, and like I've told you, you are welcome back anytime. But is there anything you would like
Thank
to
you.
share with our listeners before we wrap up? Any last words? I know you really just want to encourage people and give them some motivation, but anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say if you have an idea, let's talk about it. Bring it up to people. And if someone shoots your idea down, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that they're not comfortable with it. And so you keep putting your ideas out in the world because at some point it's going to stick with someone and it could change someone's life for the better. So do not stop just because one person shoots you down or a number of people shoot you down. You have value and purpose, and other people need to hear what you have to say.
I love that. I love that. Take the leap, guys, and don't give up. So, Kat, where can people find you online to see what you're doing, follow you on your journey, all the things?
Our business, Dysphagia Duo, is on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Dysphagia Duo. And then I can also be found at Cat Ludwig RD on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. So go follow Kat and go follow her business. And as you have potential clients who would really benefit from what um, Kat and Stephanie have to offer through Dysphagia Duo, be sure to send your clients their way too. So, Kat,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was so wonderful. I always love talking to you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.